Adam Butler with Wildlife Bureau's here. Major Chris Reed with Law Enforcement. It's Few the Proud Boys. We're here with you today.
Oh, nowhere else I'd rather be on a Monday afternoon, JT.
How y'all doing?
Noon on a Monday.
We're good, man. We're good. It's crazy. It seems like every time we get into the summer, we get into the spring, we get into the fall, we're like, I can't believe the year is going by this fast. But I'm going to go ahead and make the weekly statement. I can't believe it's all. They can start school next week.
Yeah, it's here.
That's crazy.
Summer's almost over.
And that means hunting season is.
I tuned the rifle up this weekend.
Yeah.
Yes,
You're
sir.
way ahead. See, I'm thinking doves. I'm thinking I need to go shoot some clays. You're even beyond that. You're out there.
What'd you shoot?
You're in November.
Shot the AR-10 that I hunt with, and I even shot 22 just for the heck of it. Hadn't broke it out in a while.
Yeah.
Just wanted to, in case there's a squirrel that might need to be eradicated.
You still got it? You still on?
Yeah, they were both still pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
About 150 yards. They were right there. We were just sitting there banging the gong out there.
Oh yeah.
We weren't like zeroing in or trying to match. Get a pattern or a group or whatever you call it. But we were just basically wanting to go shoot.
That's a good thing to do this time.
I got out in the Mississippi outdoors this weekend. Took a couple of little guys fishing. My son and one of his buddies. It's amazing, JT. What just a little small bass will do to a 5 and 6 year old.
Oh heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh heck yeah.
Tear them up.
Yeah.
All right, where you want to start? I'm gonna let you let you steer the ship, and I'm gonna help today.
Well, we got just I guess intro stuff to get out to the public. The new Outdoor Digest is up and available. So if you're interested in checking that out and got questions about regulations and whatnot, it's available on the website. You should be seeing printed copies in your local licensed vendor, those sorts of normal places. So go check that out if you have not already. We've promoted it a couple of times on this show recently about automatic license renewal. So we want to keep reminding folks to do that. It's a good way to make sure you don't forget, don't end up on a deer stand and realize you didn't renew your license, which would never be a good thing. So this is just like you do with a lot of different vendors and things where you set it up, it automatically renews. You don't have to touch it. But you do have to sign up for that. So we encourage people to do that. Great way to make that process more streamlined. And then, JT, we want to really promote, kind of hinted at it a second ago, but with dove season a little over a month out, go visit one of our shooting ranges. We've got 3 really top-notch shooting ranges scattered across the state now. One up north, one in the middle part of the state, and one down south. So McHenry, Turcotte.
It's down south.
Yeah, McHenry,
Turcotte.
down south, Turcotte in the middle.
And then MacGyver.
Just up there up north.
The new MacGyver. Yeah, it's and we say that it's one of those tomato type deals. But the folks in North Mississippi, where that MacGyver Creek runs through in North Mississippi, that's like state of the art. They were very.
That's the newest one, right?
Yeah. They were telling us, look, you guys are pronouncing this thing all wrong. It's not MacGyver, whatever it is. I still struggle with it.
I don't know. I do know that Winchester
nice.
is a big partner on that.
Yeah.
So, you can't get
really
more
cool
name brand in the shooting world than Winchester.
It's awesome.
They're a partner up there.
Awesome
so
place.
if some people, Reed probably, he doesn't need to practice, for dove season. He's just natural. But some people, like myself, need to practice, and these places are great. So $15 will get you in, and you can really tune up for dove season.
That's a humbling sport.
Dove season?
Yeah.
It can be, yeah.
Man, I can't hit those little things.
I'm streaky, Sometimes I can really do good, and then sometimes it's just embarrassing. There's no consistency at all. I can't predict it ahead of time.
Are you using an improved cylindered shotgun?
No, I usually just use the full choke. Not full. I'm sorry. Modified.
Yeah.
I go with the modified.
I've tend to see, and I have a 16 gauge. And it's been years since I've shot guns, but I have a 16 gauge that belonged to my dad when he was a kid, and it's a semi-automatic, and it has an improved cylinder on it.
Yeah,
and it really spreads it.
You eat them up.
Yeah. Well, it's been years since I dove hunted.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't dove hunt with a 16 gauge anymore. But I tell you what, it does give you, it's a little kinder on your shoulder after an afternoon of shooting. I can tell you that.
You're shooting a box and a half of shells, get your limit of doves.
You'd be glad you were shooting a 16 gauge at that point.
I'm telling you what.
But yeah, it's right around the corner. It'll be here, and got a lot of things that are going on.
Also, JT, we've got draw hunts go up this week, I believe, August the 1st. Draw hunts for a lot of different species, so check those out. Some of our dove hunts on WMAs, small game, I believe some of the early teal, even deer on a couple of areas. So all of that goes up on August the 1st. Will be open till the 15th. So if you're interested in any of those sort of things, go ahead and check that out. The draw hunts for the areas in the South Delta, they will not be up, and we can talk some more about that here in a little bit on the show. But
William in Cortland says you pronounce it McKeever.
Okay,
just telling you.
Thank you.
That sounds like a local yokel to me.
McKeever
it is.
I was advised by some of our staff in here to say McIver. McKeever. I still struggle with it.
Well, Cortland is North Mississippi. So
yeah, I'm just saying pronouncing it.
Who knows if that's a local legend or what?
It's a great spot. Go check it out.
I'm from down south, man. I don't know. I'm not even close to that part of the state.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what we're going to kind of talk about in the next segment, and starting with this one, the Mississippi River is falling, and it's falling quick.
It's below flood stage at Vicksburg, thank God.
That's the first time in, how many days?
Been a while.
Long time. And so with that being said, the backwater area should start to follow suit, because landside and the riverside, the steel biogauge at the riverside is about 2 or 3 feet lower than the landside levels. And so it's going to start dropping out, and hopefully it'll come on out pretty quick. And then, then we got to assess what's happened, because that water's been up since February that I know of. In other places, probably since, I know you hear some comments on social media and stuff coming in that hunting clubs have experienced water on their property since like the end of January.
Right.
That's crazy. And so now we're coming to see kind of, what damage has been done underneath the infrastructure over there in that world. But the positive thing is it's coming down finally.
Now, I understand y'all put a survey out. Is that correct?
We did, JT, and we really encourage our listeners to go take that. It's available on the website, also on the Facebook, different places, and it's really getting the public's input on how the agency should respond to this really unprecedented natural disaster in terms of deer season. Normally. The normal process for making rules and regulations with hunting is the wildlife staff within the agency have data, try to collect biological data on whatever critter it is, and make a recommendation on a season based on what we think we know. In this case, we're really hampered. There's never been a flood like this, never been a situation like this. So the normal process of collecting information to kind of guide the decision process is going to be a little bit truncated. We're really not going to fully understand the effects of this flooding over there for quite a while.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's not good, but just how bad is it? We're not going to know for some time, and it will be probably at least after the waters. Obviously after the waters recede, but even beyond, before we really start getting our head around just how bad the effect has been on the deer population in this question.
And JT, we'd like for people to call in and give us their opinions today. And text in on the text line and let us know what they're thinking. Should the survey is asking these questions? Should we close the season? Should we limit it 1 month or 2 months less than what's normal? And
the question is, this is a fact-finding mission. And thank goodness that y'all are wanting to seek the voice of the people out there, rather than just saying, "Here's how how it's going to be, and this is how it is." And it's basically like trying to put a puzzle together here. This factor in this decision-making process is part of the public that is out there.
Right. That's absolutely
Unfortunately, we don't have real data when it comes to some type of a game check system or a tagging system, if you will, that would help us even more. But that's a whole nother story. But what do you think, folks? What would be your opinion as far as the South Delta is concerned? I'd love to hear from you. 601-879-4395. Hang on. All right, there you go. JT Show, Super Talk Mississippi Outdoors Radio. Chris Reed, Adam Butler in the house right now. We're talking about this pieces of the puzzle, and what we're talking about also today is the Mississippi South Delta's been flooded for most of the year. It's taken its toll on wildlife. We've all seen the pictures of dead and emaciated deer and wildlife. Social media, people are concerned about the condition and size of the herd, and the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks is now polling hunters who hunt the area in an opinion poll about the coming deer season. It ranged from no change in the season to no season at all, as to whether the season should be altered. This is an effort that's being done by the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks to gather from people in that region what their thoughts are on the season. I have my own personal thoughts. I don't know if you want to hear them or not, but I could share them for just a second. But just if you want them, just from what I've seen.
Yeah, what are they? What do you think?
Well, we all know that there is a force out there that would like to stop hunting.
Mm-hmm.
We're all very aware of that, whether it be PETA or whatever these other organizations are.
Yeah.
We've seen the pictures of these emaciated deer. I'm talking about skin and bones.
Oh, yeah.
Real. It's horrible. It's heartbreaking.
It is. It really is, especially when you go see it firsthand.
So
it's
that's
terrible.
the first thing that pops in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if we carry on with deer season, and I'll probably get flamed for saying this, but if we carry on with deer season and then pictures get out of these emaciated deer being shot, which you know as well as I do in social media that could happen,
Yeah.
I think it gives them fuel. That concerns me. That's my personal concern. That's JT. It has nothing to do with the department or anything out there.
Mm-hmm.
My personal opinion. I think that gives the anti-hunting crowd fuel, and I don't think we need to give them any fuel, period. So if you had to ask me, I don't hunt there, so obviously I'm not in the survey.
Right.
But that was just the first thing that popped in my mind as I thought about this.
Right, and that's a valid concern, JT. And as we've mentioned on the show before, our staff have been doing surveys over there on the levee system for the last couple of months, both monitoring the deer that are alive and the deer that have died. And so we're weekly going and checking that. And you're correct in just kind of the visual of it all. It is heartbreaking to see the conditions that those deer are going through.
I mean, they'll rebound.
They would.
They'll be fine.
Long term. Let's talk long term. Let's not talk just this year, 2019, but let's talk years and years out. That area over there is the best deer habitat in the United States of America. You're talking about rich soils, agriculture, hardwoods. They have the whole gamut of everything they need. So I think long term the deer herd certainly recovers and probably recovers fairly quickly. But we are in a very peculiar, unprecedented situation this year with it, and that's why we're seeking the public input, because there's all sorts of different considerations. Your point of view is obviously a valid one.
That was just like I said, the first thing that popped in my head. That was what I thought of. I've got some response here if y'all'd like them. By the way, if you'd like to maybe answer the question. Now, if you live in North Mississippi, you can give an opinion, but we really would like to hear.
Well, they may hunt down there.
Yeah, this is true.
They may drive down.
I'd really like to hear from people who do hunt that area. That's really what we like to do, but just my opinion. Adam says, what effect will the prolonged water have on acorns? Well, the acorns haven't dropped, but it will have some prolonged effect on the trees, won't it?
Right. Yeah, and that's a very good question. That's a question I'm probably a little bit unqualified to answer. I do know that there's some expectation that you will have tree mortality over there, particularly on certain species. How it affects this year's acorn crop is hard for me to say. I know that oak trees actually, this is counterintuitive, but oak trees, when they're really, really stressed, actually usually try to put on more acorns, because it's kind of like when you think you're about to die, you sort of do all you can to get your best out there. So there's a possibility that it does not affect the acorn crop at all. There's also a chance that, because they were, you think about a lot of those acorns, the groundwork for them was being laid way back, way back in the spring. So they were being stressed then as well. So that's a tough one. I do know that there's some expectation that there will be some tree mortality. I don't know whether that's extensive enough to change kind of the landscape of.
And you won't see the mortality of the trees for
that's right.
5, 10, 15 years, 20 years.
It's not something that's going to happen.
Yeah,
right
they're not. The whole forest isn't going to fall down when the water comes off.
Brian in the Metro says, I've hunted in the South Delta for the past 20 years. I don't see how any conservationists could expect a hunting season this year. The area will need at least a year, maybe 2, just to get back to some form of normalcy. Stephen in Vicksburg said, I grew up living and hunting in the Delta, and I and my family and friends still live there. Think deer season in the South Delta should be closed for at least the next 2 years to try to get the herds back.
Yeah.
Ed from JS, from what I've seen, game are already really stressed in malnutrition, so those counties should be closed for the areas. Hunting is a conservation tool, so the health of the herd should be the number one priority. And I hunt Holly Bluff, and there's literally no deer left. Shut the season down so the deer can move back where they came from. It's horrible. So
sure.
There's a little slice for you there, gentlemen,
right.
Off the C-Spire text line.
And JT, like I was mentioning earlier, this is totally unprecedented. And one thing we don't know is the extent of the effect. We know obviously those deer that were trapped on the levee system are not doing good, and a number of those have probably expired. But what we don't really know was that 5% of the deer in that area, 10% of the deer in that area, 50% of the deer in that area.
Because the deer have this innate sense that we don't have, that when the water begins to come up, that they begin to flee those areas. They live in that world, and they're adapted to that world. And so before the flood levels get to these crazy high levels, the deer are already gone. Right. And wherever they go, who knows? And like you were saying, we don't know the percentage that's been affected. That maybe 10% of the population have died. Is that equivalent to roughly what happens in nature every year with blue tongue or other type diseases that strike these deer? Is that Mother Nature's way of kind of balancing it out? The deer that have left and have gone to the promised land around there that are eating crops and that have found some food to sustain this flood on, when they come back, is it going to be a dramatic decline? That, I think, will be told in February, January, when people are sitting around. If hunting season is still open, they're like, the flood didn't prove that much of a factor, or the flood was devastating on deer. I don't think right now we're doing anything more than speculating. Right. And the best case scenario, we hope that come sometime this fall or winter, people say, where did all these deer come from? We hope that the majority of the deer were able to get out and have spent, the last X number of months living up on the edge of the hills or wherever it is that they went. Sometimes, it's not uncommon for a deer to travel 10, 15 miles to get out of the floodwater. And so our hope is that at some point after the water recedes here in the coming months, people will say, oh, wow, where did all these deer come from? Yeah. But as you said, we don't know that yet. We don't. Right now it's just sort of speculation, and as it pertains to this hunting season, we're probably not going to know the answer to that until after the hunting season would have started, until we're already into kind of the fall or the early winter. So that's part of the impetus for the survey is to get sort of people's thoughts on fill it out,
because we're in uncharted waters trying to feel our way through right now, JT.
Well, this was a record flood as far as duration. We've seen it higher, but we've never seen it longer. And with that fact that it has been out there, and the fact that this has been going on for so long, so far I've seen, pretty much everybody saying or questioning this. Again, I told you my thoughts on it about the anti-hunting group, and that's the first thing that pops in my mind, because I just know that that force is real. It is very real. That is out there. Well, your thoughts, folks. If you hunt the South Delta, tell us what your thoughts are. Should there be a hunting season? Should it be closed? Is that something the commission should pick up and decide and do? Should we give it a year and just let the wildlife and everything try to bounce their way back? And not only the wildlife, but the habitat. That's the other side of it that we're thinking about. Is let the habitat try to come back and get itself back into where it needs to be. I think that's another part of it as well. Your thoughts, C Spire text line. We have room for you today. You can join us 601-879-4395. Also on Twitter at the JT Show, and you can also say hello if you'd like to join us on the air. If you have a comment about this, 601. Or rather, 888-808-8637. That's the way you get in here today. All right, we'll continue. Major Chris Reed here with us, Adam Butler with the Wildlife Bureau. It's an interesting question. What are your thoughts? Should we retard it a little bit? Should we close it all together? That's a good question. Kevin says, why not close it tentatively until results are known? That's another thought. Yeah. We're kind of getting a fact-finding mission here, much like what y'all are trying to do.
I'm going to pose some other side of the fence questions in the next segment.
You the man. We'll do it next. Hang on. A lot of people are asking about the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks have a stance or an opinion on the backwater pumps. Surely the pumps would alleviate at least some of the destruction and loss of wildlife. Good question.
Our commission did formally endorse the backwater pumps at the June
yep.
commission meeting. Yeah. So
okay.
that we're on record in that regard.
Yep.
Brian wants to know if the no-feeding zone has changed in Prentiss and Lee County. Last season it was only west of 45 in the ban zone. Has it changed? I don't have the map in front of me.
I don't have the map either.
I don't either, but I don't remember any changes since the end of the
He needs to check, because I know that we've had discussions as
the
far.
The North Zone did change a lot.
The North Zone changed a lot, and we also discussed the difficulty of, people of having half a county included versus not, and it's easier just to have the whole county as far as transport regulations. Yada, yada. So he needs to check, and we do apologize for not having that off the top of our head. We'll look it up.
We'll do that for you as best. I have a camp in South Delta at Holly Bluff and utilize Delta National, Green Tree, as well as Mahana. I believe the wildlife need a year to recover, as well as migrate back to familiar ground. Thank you. If the water's down in September and the deer come back, will they have anything to eat through hunting season? That's another good question. Let's see. We had 300-plus deer on our only high ground left during March. We had about 30 left. All the Delta National, Panther Swamp, and Lake George have been underwater since before that. The hunting should be shut down for at least 2 or 3 years to cover that entire area. So there you go. Overwhelmingly right now, most people are saying give it a break.
Yeah.
I guess when will you know the survey? When will y'all have all
the survey goes till August 11th. Okay. So fill it out, and it I did it before we came up here. It takes 15 seconds. It's quick, and it's some general information, and we'll compile all that on top of putting eyes on the ground, and nothing has been done at this moment.
Right, and we're actually, in addition to the, asking the hunters, as I said, JT, one of the things we're going to be looking at is looking at the deer population. So we are planning a large-scale camera survey in that area, both on the public lands like Delta National and others, and then also going to try to incorporate participation on private land, so asking landowners to help us with that camera survey. We're having a meeting this week about the protocol for that. So that's going to be how we monitor the deer herd itself. Did they come back? What do the numbers look like? Is this close to what it would have been pre-flood, or do we have some estimate of what would have been lost? So we are planning on monitoring that. But as I was saying earlier, it sort of the process is a little bit different than normal, because we're having to make decisions without information, and we won't get the information really on
it's
full
a tightrope
until
to walk
after the normal hunting period would have started.
And I think the key to this is the public opinion is just one piece of the puzzle here.
Right. I mean, that's not the whole pie.
Right. I mean, if everybody voted for yes, close it, that doesn't mean necessarily y'all are going to do it, because you're going to have to go and look at what harvest data you have, and then actually getting on the mainline levee and just seeing what's there with the mortality rate.
So if you close down,
and we've been doing that part.
So think about this: if you close the season down, then people are not coming to the South Delta to hunt. They're not going to go up there just to visit. They're not going to go up there to squirrel hunt. And if they do, they're not going to plant a food plot or all the food plots that they plant for deer hunting. Mm-hmm. And so therein lies another problem, I think, in that world is the deer go into winter with no food plots to supplement their diet, which is a big staple of their diet during the winter months.
That's a great point.
You're sitting there in a CWD zone, which also complicates the matter dramatically.
Right.
Because the most successful CWD management stories are those states who have gotten out in front of population density in the areas where the disease has been found.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a target number of samples that we want to get in the state by hunters, hunter-harvested samples, allowing them to harvest a deer and then give us a sample. So, if we close deer season in that world and the population, what if it comes, because it's just a what if right now, what if it comes back and there's not a big decrease in the population and the population explodes and we get behind CWD to where we can't necessarily catch up with it?
It's a lot to consider. It is certainly an unprecedented situation.
And the third thing, I think,
playbook here.
The voice that, we think about deer camps and hunters and this and that, the people over there that have, the gas stations, the biscuit stores, the hotels, the economic impact in that region that's contingent on hunting would.
Now, and I guess one other question, I guess I should have asked at the beginning of the show, are we talking about public and private? Or we're talking about all together if this goes down, right?
Yeah, as far as the survey is concerned, they're asking, do you hunt private or public? As far
right. So that is a consideration, and that would be from the responses would be able to tease that apart.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a difference between the two?
Right.
And I think there's reason to think the response may need.
We are as a public land goes. The department is in charge of managing the herd there for the lion's share of that. On private landowners manage their private properties each to their own, but they do it very diligently. So I think all options, are on the table at this point. Nothing has been discussed. I don't know. But I think that's a real situation for people over there that are in that world and reliant on the hunting community that generate, because we've already had just devastating impacts economically, and we're not an entity that is completely dedicated to the private interests of business owners, but we also, while we're managing the resource, have to weigh the general public's interest, whatever their interest may be, I guess you could say.
Deer hunting is $1 billion industry in Mississippi. A lot of people may not realize that, but
with a B, right?
$1 billion to the state economy, just deer hunting.
Yeah.
It's impressive, really impressive. Hey, JT, regarding that earlier question, all of Lee County is in that North CWD zone. We were talking at one point. It was only part of the county over to 45 highway. It's the whole county.
What about Prentice?
All of Prentice as well.
Yeah, I thought we did that.
Well, I know it changed a lot, and it's affected a friend of mine. I know that Hudson Yallabusha County. Now it's all under it. He's had to pick up his feeders.
This whole thing is kind of it's a big what if. I mean, for me, who have an opportunity to hunt some land in the South Delta, if it was closed for the duration of the season, this is personal opinion, not department affiliated, I would be a little sad. Because then I wouldn't have an opportunity to go hunting.
Sure.
Even if I don't.
Well, Chris, I could invite you.
Yeah, but
I could invite you with me, but it's
get
not
out
the
here
South
that,
Delta.
man.
Well, it's not.
Right.
But let's
just to go sit in the outdoors and enjoy that experience, maybe on a limited bag limit. But I would be a voice, or my vote would be cast for at least having an opportunity. That doesn't say that the opportunity has to be for 4 or 5 months. But during December, it's almost like December means ducks, Christmas, and deer hunting in Mississippi.
Eric Hart says, I think the season should be left open. I own land and hunt the area. When do you think a decision will be made?
That would be
I don't know if I have an
probably
answer
the
for
August
that,
or
like
September.
I said, this survey is going to run till
August 11th.
Weeks, August 11th. So we're not going to wait too long after that thing closes because it's not all that long until October. So
August, September, I would think. we would maybe know some more information.
From the coast, someone says, my suggestion would be to close the affected area to all hunting this year. No non-residents licensed for deer hunting this year, being that I estimate 75% of our out-of-state hunt this part of the state in the Southwest. So you're going to stress the herd in other parts of the state. Delay bow hunting till October 15th. Close all the hunting statewide on January 15th. Just people all just chiming in.
That's good. That's what we want.
Someone said, would Dove Rabbit and all those be closed also?
Yeah, I hadn't heard.
The survey is just specific to
deer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, our final segment is next. Mississippi Outdoors Radio will continue, brought to you by the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Hang on. There you go, the JT Show. Glad you're here today. Mississippi Outdoors Radio continues for a few more minutes as we continue to talk about the possibility of the closure of deer season in the South Delta and asking your opinions on that here today. And I think it's been pretty spirited here today. I think the majority of the people are saying maybe we need to give it a break. Let it sit for a year.
Well, we're certainly going to take those opinions into consideration, JT. Like I said, we've got the survey is going to go for another week or two, and then we'll assess the thing. I do want to emphasize, though, we've brought it up a time or two over the hour, but I do want to emphasize it again, kind of in this closing segment, that it's not the end of the world over there. We are talking about, no exaggeration, some of the best deer habitat in the entire country. So, yes, they've been stressed this year. Yes, the stress of this event will show for a year or so, but this is not going to be the end of deer in the South Delta. With the habitat that they have over there, as rich as it is, they're going to be able to rebound and probably rebound pretty quickly from this.
They go through it every year, and this is obviously, we've said it. It's at length. It's unprecedented, but here lately, it's a common thing in the South Delta that floods happen, and they happen about every year. And so the deer over there are more resilient than we give them credit for. And I think that, like you said, it'll be one of those years that we definitely never forget. But I think the herd and the habitat over there can sustain it. And again, we haven't made any decisions because, I was getting questions a few weeks ago about a herd the department is closing deer season down. And that's just not true because we have not done anything at this moment. We're just taking opinions. We want you to give us the feedback. Fill the survey out. It takes like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. It's not long. And it gives us an insight into what, here's your voice. Here's your opportunity to be heard. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so that decision will come pretty quick as soon as after that's done, and we'll kind of go from there as to whether or not this will happen. And again, the survey is just a small part of it, of whether or not this will happen. That'll just be part of it that they're trying to determine here.
Right. And JT, I've not heard an exact date on when the final determination would be made, but my guess would be we want to have something in place by late August, early September, so that people can begin planning one way or the other. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that we're going to sit around and study on for weeks and weeks and weeks once that survey closes.
Yeah, I would think that it would be, once deer season started, it'd be kind of hard to come back after the fact and say, hey, guys, quit, stop. Because, so to speak to your point, I think it would be something here in the next month and a half that we would make a decision on that and kind of gather the facts and try to make an informed decision because there's a lot to weigh. There's a lot of factors to go into this process that we have to weigh.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, that's a good point that we have there, and we'll be that. Now, where do people go to fill out this survey?
They can go
main page.
The website, when you go to the mdwfp.com, there's a scrolling marquee banner on there, and it should probably be the first one that you see.
Yeah, I think it's a picture of the levee with floodwater on each side. Take the survey, click on it, and boom.
If you don't want to do that, it's also up on the Facebook, so you can go to the social media and do it that way. So either of those outlets will get you there.
Mm-hmm. Well, so there you go. Someone sent in a picture, said, I planted 5 acres of sunflower in Panola County, fertilized it 2 weeks ago, went to look at them yesterday, and the tops were eaten off of every sunflower. Any idea what did this?
Could be a four-legged creature.
I imagine it was some. I imagine it was some deer.
Probably some
Yeah.
deers.
Go-
Some deer.
Go. Check out the. Go play in a garden and see what happens to it these
Yeah.
days. They're just.
That is one of the risks you run with planting sunflowers for a dove field. The deer do like them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that comes to an end here today. We'll see where we go from there.
We will. Hopefully, we never have to go through this again.
Or at least not this bad.
Right.
That's certainly what we hope. So it's been a.
It's falling, just dropping out, and that's the first thing. That's the first time we can really say that since
January.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Well, you go back and you look at it like this. People that have had farmland underneath, they're not going to plant next year. That's what I'm being told. That they're going to have to redo roads and drainages and pumps and culverts and.
Yeah, we're kind of taking the covers off of the damage that's taking place underneath the water for all this time. We don't know.
It's like lifting up the wet carpet now.
Yeah,
and seeing exactly how bad it was. All right, everybody. All right, guys, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Adam Butler, Major Chris Reed, thank you for coming in here today as we talk about Mississippi Outdoors Radio, brought to you by the Foundation for Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. All right, the Gala Rewind's on the way next, or the Eagle Hour. Also, good things with Rebecca Turner coming up as well. Hang on.